Okay, guys, and a very warm welcome to Wednesday, the 22nd of May, for the 14th session as part of our May Wine Month for 2025. As we know, this year is all about France, and this week, as part of that French week, is all about Bordeaux. And we're joined by Patrick from Château de Cazenove, to talk all about their wine and the importation of their wine into the UK. So I'm going to hand over to Patrick and invite him to share his presentation there. So Patrick, thank you very much. Please, please share.
All right. Thank you very much for organizing this tasting or not tasting, but presentation of Château de Cazenove. I must say that thanks to you, I made my first PowerPoint for my entire life. And it's my first Zoom meeting since the COVID lockdown. So it's a bit, well, let's say stress is not the right word, but a bit of a new experience for me. I'm very happy to talk a bit about Château de Cazenove, and I want firstly to thank you for serving and offering these wines in your chain. It's always helpful. A little word about who we are. I'm not the owner of Château de Cazenove. I'm not the winemaker. I'm Patrick. I work for a négociant, a family-owned wine merchant named Louis Vialard. We are more specialized in the medium range up to the high end, and we sell mainly outside from the domestic market. So we are export-minded company and quite famous, I would say, in the United Kingdom, as we do distribute Château Sistac, which is quite famous in the UK. Well, this is just about us. And why do we have Château de Cazenove in our assortment? So that's the main point. We were used to have some pretty good superiors, Bordeaux superior from the right bank, but we were pretty much frustrated because we had none from the left bank, and we are a company with deep roots in the Medoc, so the peninsula of the Medoc. Maybe I could share the first slide. So I do share again, partager. Full screen. And now, voila, I just want to show you a bottle, just to remind you how the bottle looks like and how beautiful it is. And then this is a global map of the Bordeaux vineyards. And you probably know that you can produce Bordeaux and Bordeaux Superior all in the whole Bordeaux vineyard area. But there are not that many on the left bank side. And by luck, we bumped into Mr. Charles de Cazenove, the owner of Château de Cazenove, because one of our colleagues is hunting a lot, and he met this guy during a hunting party. So we tasted the wines, we are convinced by the quality, and this is how we started to have Château de Cazenove in our portfolio. Then I wanted to share with you just a few information about the Bordeaux vineyard, but I don't want to overwhelm you with other information because I think you had already a presentation, a global presentation of Bordeaux. But what I wanted to underline is the total surface is 105,000 hectares, is 1.5% of the world vineyard. And just as a little fun fact, I wanted to insist on the fact that 17 bottles of Bordeaux wines are sold every second around the world. Then on the other slide, I just wanted to explain that within this 13,500 hectares, Bordeaux and Bordeaux Superior category represents nearly 50% of the total production. And Bordeaux Superior Red are representing 25% of the production of Bordeaux. So it's quite important. And again, I do insist about it. There are more on the left, on the right bank side, rather than on the left bank side. So you have the breakdown for every category, but I will send you the full document with pleasure after the show, let's say. Where I want to be a little bit more precise, it's about the difference between Bordeaux and Bordeaux Supérieur. It's complicated and easy at the same time. You have, first point, you have lower yields per hectare. So I checked the real legal aspect is that you can have 55 hectoliters per hectare when you do Bordeaux Supérieur and 60 when you do Bordeaux. So you have a higher planting density. So you have an average 4,500 wood stocks per hectare for a Bordeaux Supérieur, where you have 4,000 wood stocks in average for a Bordeaux red. You have a reduced row spacing. So the distance between each row is not the same. It's about 2.5 meters for Bordeaux and 2.20 meters for Bordeaux Supérieur. And then you have less birds per plant, a lower shoot density, a lower plot density, and a higher minimum sugar content. So the natural degree has to be at minimum 11 degrees alcohol for the Bordeaux Supérieur, where it can be only 10.5% for a normal Bordeaux. And last point, which is important, you have 6 months longer aging time for a Bordeaux Supérieur compared to a Bordeaux. This means that a Bordeaux can be normally sold from the 15th of January after the harvest, where a Bordeaux Supérieur has to be sold from the 1st of July after the harvest. So this is the reason why many Bordeaux Supérieurs are a bit matured in oak to give more density to the wine and more flesh, I would say. Voilà. This is the thing I wanted to say about the difference between Bordeaux and Bordeaux Supérieur. And now I want to go really on Château de Cazenove. So you can see that Château de Cazenove is really along the river on the left bank side, in the middle of the Margaux appellation area, with two prestigious neighbors, Château Siran, which used to be a Cru Bourgeois exceptionnel, and Château d'Ozac, who is a fifth classified growth from Margaux. Then Château de Cazenove is a classic Bordeaux Supérieur, so it's not a prestigious estate. They don't earn a lot of money, and you can see it at the POS material and at the pictures that they were able to give to us. But it's a good facility. It's a nice location. And it's a 12.5 hectare big estate. So it's not a very huge estate. So this was interesting for us as well, because the wine is already extremely present in the United States. And for us, as a wine merchant, we love to be in a position where we can buy on an exclusive basis so that we can control the distribution. This is why we got a specific label for Château de Cazenove, Réserve Pradines, as you can see it on the label. Because if you go on the website of the estate, you will see Château de Cazenove, only Château de Cazenove. So this is a kind of usual trick in Bordeaux, which allows, let's say, two persons to sell the same wine in different places. Voilà. It's a recent vintage, it's a recent vineyard, in fact. Historically, it's an old one, but it has been completely damaged by the frost in 1956. And it's only in 1989 that the De Cazenove family decided to replant the vineyard in that position, because they were quite convinced that there was room for making something good as a Bordeaux Supérieur in this area. So this is a so-named vin de Palu. What we call a vin de Palu is a Bordeaux wine which is produced on sandy terroirs along the river, or sometimes from former coastal marshes that have been drained. So this is what we can say about the estate by himself and the history of the estate. This is Mr. Louis de Cazenove, the actual owner. He's cheating a bit because he is not that young anymore, but I believe we all do the same with the pictures. Voila. So I made a technical sheet with some with a recap. You don't need to have everything in your mind, but I think the important thing is to keep in mind that it's not a big estate with 12.5 hectares. The soil is dry palu, as I explained, so it's more clay over limestone and silica. The grape varietals are a little bit unusual for the Medoc side because there is a high percentage of Merlot, which gives the roundness to this wine. So 75% Merlot, 20% Cabernet Sauvignon, 5% Cabernet Franc. The vineyard has an average age of 16 years, which is correct. Density is quite high, as I said before, because it's a Bordeaux superior, so it's 5,000 wood stocks per hectare. The minimum should be 4,500. And the climate is oceanic with a temperate microclimate due to the exposure very close to the river. It protects from the frost, and it protects also from the too hot weather. And in the last years, it's pretty helpful if we are considering the global warming. The cultivation is very, very traditional. So it's all about getting the perfect maturity. So it's all about controlling the foliage, the leaf thinning. And of course, at this level of estate, things are more rather than mechanical. So it's a mechanical harvest with a double sorting table to select the best berries at the end. Traditional vinification, and important point is the fact that the aging is in stainless steel tank and in 1-year-old French oak barrels. So it's a mix of both. So it's not legally a wine which is aged in oak because you need 6 months, 100%, which is not the case, but there is a bit more structure given by this use of oak barrels at Château de Cazenove. I have put some pictures. Let's say the most interesting to see is the one on the bottom, on the left side. It's a double guillot, which means the rootstock has 2 arms, which allows a perfect to work in a online or inline perfectly well in the vineyard. And of course, I have the opportunity to taste pretty many wines, but I haven't tried the Château de Cazenove since quite a long time. So I tasted it twice before this Zoom meeting. And this is my personal comment after having tasted it. So to me, the color is deep ruby with traces of evolution, likely orange. The nose is very open and expressive with candied and stewed fruit. I find that there are lots of aromas of black cherry and even kirsch. The palate is supple, round, and fat. A very good structure, in my opinion, with mellow, ripe tannins, long finish, again stewed fruit, so a little bit jammy. It's dense and deep. And again, these notes of kirsch, black cherry are quite pretty much on the nose and on the palate. It's quite a long finish as well. So it's, to me, pretty well made in that price category. Food pairings, I tried to be a little bit more original than just saying grilled beef. So, of course, it can go with simple dishes and good dishes such as pizzas and burgers. But it's also very good with spicy food, especially if you are using herbs or coriander, cumin, thyme, rosemary. Rich rich meals in sauce, of course, like beef bourguignon, beef Wellington, grilled meat again. Less usual, you can try it with fish, rather grilled salmon or cod. And then, of course, classically with cheese, every kind of cheese, I would say, even if personally I prefer white wine or cheese. And on the dessert, it's always very good with chocolate, peach, and pear poché, for instance, in wine, can be also a good pairing with that kind of wine. Voila. And then I summed it up for you in just a few points. So it's a little family estate driven with passion and tradition. Very popular brand in the USA for historical reasons. Part of the family lived there since 400 years. So we were lucky enough to have access to this exclusive label, Château de Cazenove Réserve Pradines. Very little Bordeaux superiors are produced in the Médoc because, of course, most of the time people prefer to produce a Médoc or an Haut-Médoc or a Pauillac if they have the soil which is agreed as being Pauillac and Haut-Médoc. It's what we were really looking after. It's really a dense, robust wine that needs time to age and to be drinkable. This is also the reason why we prefer to offer a mature vintage on the market. So it's for us, this is the typicity that we were willing to get and to obtain from a Bordeaux Supérieur coming from the Médoc. Voila. And then I put the motto of this little known estate, nothing without work, but I think we can say this for nearly everything. Voila. And then a little bit more pictures of the vineyard. And if you have any questions, I'm very happy to try to answer them.
Thank you very much indeed, Patrick. I will open the floor. We've got a couple of minutes, so I will open the floor if there are any questions. But whilst people are thinking about any questions they may want to ask, one from me is that obviously, typically, depending on the climate of that year, the weather of that year, there's a little bit of flexibility in the percentage of blend based on whether the varieties perform well for each vintage. The percentage mix that you showed earlier with 75% Merlot, is that a consistent blending percent every vintage, or does it change a little bit by vintage?
No, there are slight variations from year to year, indeed, but globally, that's the way the vineyard is planted as well. So therefore, you will find it in the bottle more or less every year.
So that's the kind of standard recipe for that label. Okay, thank you so much.
It's interesting what you say because Merlot is a concern globally because it's the grape varietal which ripens first, which is very high in alcohol, can be very high in alcohol. And with the global warming, we have in the last years discovered or learned that we managed to have Merlots with 15.5 degrees, which is very high. And of course, that's not the global trend worldwide. People are more looking for wines with low alcohol. So due to the blending with Cabernet and so on, we managed to keep it more or less under control. But it's a concern for the future.
Understood. Any other questions for anyone on the call? Obviously, it's probably a wine that we know less about. We've listed it for a long time now, coming up to 3 years. But it's probably not a wine that we often talk about with our guests. So this is really interesting summary to kind of understand a bit more about the producer. And it's atypical, isn't it? Because it's a left bank wine, but it's Merlot dominant. So it's a little bit more unusual to talk about as something that's coming from the left bank.
Oui, exactly. I think that's really the core point for us was this. We wanted something coming from the Médoc Peninsula, let's say at a kind of entry-level price, showing well, but with the characteristic of the Médocs, which means more dense and robust wines, which need some aging before being drunk. So it's maybe not very modern as approach, but we stick to tradition as well. So we have also very modern wines in our portfolio, so I think everyone can be happy. And I suppose it's the same with your wine list. You have modern wines and less modern wines, and so that every customer can find a wine which matches his own taste.
Absolutely. Well, we hope so anyway. That's the aim.
Oui.
Patrick, thank you once again for your time. Unless there's any other questions from anyone on the call, much appreciated. I appreciate it was your first effort at PowerPoint, so thank you for that. I'll end the recording there, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to stay on and ask. Otherwise, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And don't forget, we have 2 more sessions tomorrow and Friday on our remaining 4 Bordeaux spotlights on the producers. So Megan will be hosting tomorrow's call, and we've got 2 more sessions left of this Bordeaux week before we kick off into the Rhone Valley in the south of France next week. So Patrick, once again, from everyone at Hotel Levan, thank you for your time, and I will end the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for attending. Merci beaucoup. Bye bye.
Merci.
Au revoir.